Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Sheikh Sufi Ba. SheikhSufi@gmail.com. CHEIKHSUFI@gmail.com. Opening prayer for the greatest shaman that I know in the West, Brother Ankh, Rising Sun. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin al-Fatihi lima ughliqa wal-Katimi lima sabaqa ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Alhamdulillah. Dr. Sanada Kamara, co-founder of Temple Mother Earth, sending love, peace, and abundance prayer to everyone around the world.
Aboru aboye aboshishe alafia ubuntu. Assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. Sanda om namah shivaya. I give you praise in the name, shalom, whatever your wonderful, wonderful beliefs and your system of beliefs is, we give praise. But we give praise to the Olodumare, the Olorum, the Somole, the Agbamole, Efunfuni, Legi, Kuku, Tekunani, Samuju, what their room, Mojuba, Mudemo, Male, Mafon, Matibo, Joe. We give praise to the God who is the owner of today, the owner of yesterday, and the owner of all days to come. He to whom the Rumole and Agbamole exist to know his laws and command, originating creator, all things discovered and yet to be discovered. We give praise to our grand, powerful ancestors, those wise ones who come, give us directions, light, love, and help us to be able to receive the benefit in our life. We ask that you be able to embrace the great divinity of Rumila, the one who is witness creation, second only to all of the Mari, the owner of medicine, more powerful than medicine, the immense orbit that fought the day of death. He to who is the perfect in the house of wisdom. He is able to heal and to regenerate you creatures of ill luck and bring them perfectly back into homeostasis, understanding, light, and love, and helping you to embrace the love of the universe as we give praise to all the creatures of the universe, everything that moves and reverberates, and the vibration that moves in your life. Allow you to find goodness, allow you to find health and vitality, strength to move forward for the accomplishment of all the goals that you have set for you and your family. My name is Babalao Oluwole Abiyomi Fakunle Adetuti Ronkolo de Manyansa. My nickname is Babalao of Harlem. We send greetings to you today. As you at www.ifakunle.com, you can reach me and we will talk.
Out a call to the warrior in you, to the healer in you, the king, the queen, the magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Yes, peace, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Moorish Monday. We're going to be doing part two. Brother King will be up with us shortly. We have part two. Today's topic is social reform for the Moors, conscious and unconscious, through the study of due process in accordance with treaties, operation of law, and application. Last week's topic was the social reform on international scale through restoring the knowledge of the Moorish national identity to the Moors, black Moors, Moors classified as blacks. So the Moroccan Post School of Government and International Law has her free classes. There are quite a few free classes on the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. We also have paid classes on another platform. So on the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page, we have a series of classes. The Moorish Treaty Protection and Consular Relations and Treaty Series, which embodies about 16 classes. We have the Moorish Body Politic Formation, Constitutional Principles and Governmental Principles course, which constitutes about 12 classes, and we have a host of others. So check that out. That's the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. On my website to get my books, Moors and Masonry Part 1, Moors and Masonry Part 2, How Her Venus and Moon Rule, Etymology Vocabulary, Summit U1, and other books that I have, go to moorsandmasonry.org. That's moorsandmasonry.org. Waiting for Brother King to come up. We have just a review from last week, some of the major points, key points that were expanded upon. We as a people will continue to be in our current conquesting and subjugated by foreign powers if we do not gain the knowledge of our Moorish nationality and organize with that knowledge in a political governmental body. This coming May 18th, here in Philadelphia, the Moorish, there's a conference, the Moorish Governance, Birthright, Nationality Claim Conference. That's on May 18th from 10:30 a.m. to midnight. So I have the website, the flyer is pinned on my Facebook page, Abdullah Bey, and also the Eventbrite link. So we have another point that was raised last week. We will always be in a subjugated position whereby we will be forever taxed by foreign colonial conquesting power operating on our land. Our only protection will be, our only position will be tenants and be disconnected from the land politically and will not have any rights, any land rights. The European colonial power, call him please. The European colonial power, United States, are operating like the landlords, and we are acting like the tenants. Another point, how are we going to get our mother, Morocco, out of her 200-year period of a coma if we are constantly being taxed by foreign conquesting colonial powers? Through another point that King raised and expanded upon last week, through our reversion to sovereignty, we will be able to restore to our blood inherited rightful position as the landlords, and the foreign conquesting colonial powers will revert to their rightful position as the tenants on our land. We must banish the individualism, and with the great emphasis on national political unity. That is what the conference, the May 18th Moorish Governance, Nationality and Birthright Claim Conference is about, is to focus on the national political unity. There's been a great emphasis on that, and will continue to do so. And so you have, there are conscious as well as unconscious Moors who do not have knowledge on national political unity. How does that operate? How do we restore national political unity? What is national political unity? Is it just coming together in a conference? Does that constitute national political unity? Merely working together, is that national political unity? Being at a march together, being in close proximity, does that constitute national political unity? So what is national political unity? So we have the emphasis on the waiver of our nationality claims. Nationality is an international law human rights subject. The agenda behind the Black, Negro, colored people of color, and African American fictions and law category. We consent to them administering we consent to the Europeans, that is foreign powers, United States, Spain, France, the Netherlands, England / Great Britain. We consent to them administering our Moorish estates with our political inactivity as a national governing body. So it's imperative that we come to understand national political unity and how to operate in national political unity and to restore the national principles among our people. We do not want our children, as we discussed this last week, to inherit the subjugated status in our condition. So it's important, it's imperative that we move from the individualism and move towards the collective unity perspective and position. So that's when you're looking at too much money on the table, as King mentioned, that when he addressed I had asked King to address the issue that of reparations. Quite a few of our brothers and sisters who bring forth the reparation argument. And one of the points that he raises, by doing that, we will be leaving a lot of money on the table by not addressing the land right claims, as well as the issue of the European powers, Spain and France, the United States, Great Britain, that's Great England, owing us back taxes, for operating upon our land. So we're leaving a lot of finance. We will be leaving a whole lot of finance on the table by only pushing forth the reparations and not pushing for the issue of land right claims and the recovery of our lost Moorish sovereignty, and also moving back to our rightful position as being the landlords, and moving and putting the Spain and United States and France and England, Great Britain, in their rightful position as tenants. So these are major points that were addressed last week. Moorish treaties are part of our Moorish national security. Now, King is going to go more into this matter of how Moorish treaties are part of our Moorish national security. Prepare you to the condition. So one of the points that was raised last week in explaining that Moorish treaties are part of our Moorish national security, is that the Moorish treaties enforcement, it will be part of repairing us to our conditional state we were in prior to our injury. So that is known as post-millennium. Post-millennium, the condition, returning a people to their original condition before conquest, subjugation, slavery. So that is known as post-millennium. So this is one of the issues that King addressed in repairing or restoring us to our position prior to our injury. So all right, so we're going to bring King on audio. Yeah, so once again, I'm about to bring you on audio. All right, you're on.
Okay.
All right, King is with us on the audio. He's had trouble getting on the video. Can you live?
Okay.
All right, so I did the review already, King. I did the review, and today's topic, once again, is social reform for the Moors, conscious and unconscious, through the study of due process in accordance with treaties, operation of law, and application. And last week's title, once again, was the social reform on an international scale through restoring the knowledge of the Moorish nationality, national identity to the Moors. So we're going to look at the operation of law. We must understand how the operation of law works in accordance with the due process, treaty operations of law, and the application of jurisdiction. Now, some of the points that let's define. By the operation of law is a legal term that indicates that a right or liability has been created for a party, irrespective of the intent of that party, because it is dictated by the existing legal principles. Now, some of the points that we discussed today, King, as we were preparing for today's presentation, and you brought this point up last week, and why is nationality so important? It will tie our people into the contracts, pre-existing sovereignty, pre-existing treaty protection. So you want to go into that, King?
Okay. I'm going to elaborate on that. So a lot of us, right, we have to understand once again, the Moors were very good businessmen. They did a lot of traveling throughout Europe. They did a lot of traveling in the world. They have a lot of contracts in place. So a lot of us are getting stuck in certain ideologies or certain things, or wanted to claim certain identities. But these identities are not connected to any high-powered treaties where we are the grantors or the signatory power, right? Where we are the ones who are the negotiators of such contracts, where we are in the head position. So when a lot of these other statuses that they are not a part of these Moorish treaties, they are in a more inferior So these individuals, when we're claiming these lesser, we're the tenants. Tenants pay rent to the landlords. The landlord has the superior position in contract law when we dealing in real estate law as it relates to treaty relations, as it relates to the rights that's conferred by treaty. So now these treaty relations trickle down to domestic policies. So the word treaty come from the word treat or treatment. This is when these treaties are constructed in such a way where they give us what? Fair treatment. We are part of the favorable nation clauses, so we have favor in the treaties. We must identify with the Moorish identity because it gives us better leverage. And by it's giving us better leverage, there's a lot of money on the table. When we talk about politics, Abdullah, let's not forget we're talking about money. If you think that these governments is doing a historical report, they're checking for money. They're checking the books. Who owe us money? Who is indebted? What is the rights? Okay, who's breaching the contract? How do we go about suing? When we're talking about international law, we're talking about international politics. We're talking about an economy. And the Moorish treaties give us the best leverage possible. And it's a lot of money on the table.
All right. Great point, King. We have identity and treaty provisions. One must understand the question of law that is being asked in regards to the jurisdiction. One must understand the question of law that is being asked in regards to the jurisdiction. We must understand the due process in regards to the treaties. You want to go into that, King?
Okay, so when we're looking at the jurisdictions, when we're trying to determine what's what, questions of law arise based on a lot of different things about the clauses, because sometimes vagueness, if a clause is vague and it's not very clear, right, the court must give clarity, or they must remove that clause altogether that has no force. So under question of law, dealing with treaties, right, one of the problems as Moors, we must understand if the mother is still asleep, and council of jurisdiction must exist. Who has the venue to entertain the council of jurisdiction? And we know that the United States is a part of said treaties, and we still trying to enforce treaties. So this is a question of law that must be addressed, because you cannot strip someone of a substantive right conferred by contract to subjugate them to play a lesser, inferior role under contract so that you can have more leverage. These treaties are leverage, and we must understand how to address the court under a question of law. We don't have to put in all of these different things because we don't need quorum rentals. We must understand the due process. What is we're trying to get across? Because this is a matter of national security. This is a matter of national security. This is a very important role so that we can understand the importance of this, because there's money on the table. I'm going to keep driving this home, Moors. This is about money. Let's not get this confused. This is about money. And everybody is wondering how this is going to help us. This is going to give us all the money that we need. Long as they are here enjoying the benefits of our land and feeling secure and using our resources, They are going to owe us. This will allow us for new tax reforms, new structures. This will give us the voting power, voting rights over our political government to ensure that we get what we need. This is allow us the room to grow and flourish. When we take this serious and we understand that coming together under this political banner, what it would do for us, we will run to the courts. Not to the courts. We will run and come together. We will run to come together to establish this government so that we can now enforce treaties. We don't want to force their constitution. We don't want to talk about their domestic policies. That has nothing to do with us. We're not part and parcel. We need to understand these are human rights violations. This is an act of genocide. This is an act of unjust enrichment to misclassify us, subjugate us, so that they can say, well, the Moors abandoned their state, or they're here, or they don't know how to run government. So we are going to continue to run their government and reap the benefits of being trustees over their estates. The Moors now have returned to claim all of their political legitimacy and not do business on the world stage.
But Brother Hank, can you put that back up? The fly that has the red background. All right, so he's getting that back up. We'll have that posted throughout the presentation. So he continues. So we have treaties and the operational law when it comes to domestic policy. Going to the domestic. All right, how does the operational law works in relationship to our Moorish nationality, and treaties and operational law when it comes to domestic policies?
Okay, so once we set up the government, we will then create our own legislation bodies, legislative bodies, our branches of government, and to create our own domestic policies, own constitutions, in which will govern the treatment, of how we are going to govern ourselves. And we're talking about the laws of nations. So if you incorporate the treaties into your legislation, we're going to be dealing with different nations, and those laws can be in the reach of the people, or we can keep it into the international arena. Some treaties do not get ratified and classified into domestic policy. Sometimes treaties stay in the international realm, and the signatory powers, based on the government, leave it in their international form. But then there's other treaties that can then get ratified and put into domestic policy on both sides. So what happens where the two parties meet, or there's a controversy, they establish maybe a jurisdiction in which, or a venue where they don't have to go to the international court because it's laid out in the contract. Who has the venue in which you can hear such matter?
All right, let me get more detail with what you're saying, King. You have what's known as non-executing treaties, you have self-executing treaties, where Kingdom talking about where the treaty is ratified, and so when you have called non-self-executing treaties, where they need a legislative act to enforce that treaty. Now, in regards to the United States Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, and there's several clauses in Article 3, Section 2, And one of the clauses deals with a state and a foreign state, a citizen of a foreign state, citizen of a foreign state, and you have a state, for example, Virginia. Let's give an example. Howenstein versus Lynham. And Howenstein versus Lynham, Solomon Howenstein versus bought 3 properties. He was a resident in Virginia. He had purchased 3 properties. He had never renounced his allegiance to Switzerland. He never had become a citizen of the United States. He had never renounced his allegiance and his citizenship to Switzerland. When he transitioned, Virginia had legislated a law that violated the 1850 treaty between the Swiss Confederation and the United States, whereby Virginia kept the proceeds. Virginia state had sold the proceeds, sold Solomon Howenstein's property, 3 properties, and kept the proceeds. So his relatives sued to recover the proceeds from the sales of his property. First, the issue was it was first determined that Howenstein had never renounced his citizenship and allegiance. Now, that case falls under Article 3, Section 2, and like I said, there's several clauses under Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution that deals with Howenstein, from a foreign state, Switzerland, all right? And then you have Virginia State, all right? So that falls under Article 3, Section 2, one of the clauses in that United States Constitution. But when you're dealing with, now why does it fall in there? Because there's no extraterritoriality clause. Extraterritoriality, once known as compensatory. So when if there was an extraterritoriality, also known as compensatory, also known as extraterritorial coastal jurisdiction, then it would be since Howenstein's relative would be the defendant, it would fall under Switzerland Consular Court, but there's no extraterritoriality clause. So the United States Constitution has provision, Article 3, Section 2. All right, for that, you have Ware versus Hilton. Ware versus Hilton, 1796. You have Society versus New Haven, 1823. That falls under Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. I said there's several clauses under Section 2. I just want to provide more details, and those who have been studying with us or have some clarity on that, just want to provide clarity for those who, so we can really expand this and provide more detail as to what King is talking about. Good job, King. We have continuing right along. We have you made a point here. Some conscious Moors have filed quo warranto without under the Moorish treaty rights and how the treaty relations were created. So when we talk about Moorish treaty rights, and how the treaty rights relationships was created, an issue of the more conscious Moors filing writ of quo warrantos.
Okay, so what do you want me to answer about that?
Yeah, you had brought up earlier today when we were discussing that there are conscious Moors who have filed writ of quo warranto.
Right.
And so you want to talk about what you were saying earlier about how that should not, you mentioned that earlier that should not, that application. All right.
So a lot of us will file a quo warranto, pretty much challenging the jurisdiction, saying that they lack jurisdiction to hear such matter. A lot of the times what they're using, they're trying to strip you or subjugate you, and there hasn't been certain prerequisites performed in order for that, for them to establish personal jurisdiction over the rights of your estate. So you wouldn't necessarily challenge the court, you would just remove it to a Supreme Court and ask the question of law. Bottom line is, do the Supreme Court do these courts have a matter to hear treaty relations based on a question of law? That has to be answered first before we file any correlento identifying anything. That first must be that riddle must be solved first. So we're doing improper applications because we're trying to file applications because they can't hear treaty matters. First, that riddle must be solved. That question must be posed to the Supreme Court. They're either going to tell you yes or no. Based on the answer that you get, you then will have to formulate an action that would then allow you to move to the proper venue to settle such a conflict based upon treaty relations. So we need to stop putting in these, because that we're not part and parcel to the jurisdiction. They don't have jurisdiction. One of the things that we must do when we first get into court is object to the jurisdiction.
King, we want to bring up just going back to Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. There's several clauses. Now, the Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution does not extend to extraterritoriality. Now, under Article 3, Section 2, that the court can hear treaty matters that do not extend, that do not have extraterritoriality clauses. So which means that what is extraterritoriality? That means that you would be tried under your own laws. So if you have, let's say there is a treaty between France and Japan that has extraterritoriality clauses, and then so the Japanese in France will be tried under Japan's law. So the Japanese laws would extend to France, and to French, and will be a Japanese consular court, and so the Japanese will be tried under Japanese laws. That is called extraterritoriality. Is always once called compensatory jurisdiction, but they're under Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. Their treaty matters can be heard that do not have extraterritoriality, because Article 3, Section 2 does not extend to extraterritoriality. It cannot. The reason why not, because consular courts are established by treaties. There's no country has in her constitution extraterritoriality clause. Let me explain the concept, why that can never be. Let's say King and I cannot draft in my constitution and says, well, King will be, because King, I would have to confer with King. We have to confer that. So I cannot draft in my constitution that my children will be governed by my laws or my house while they're in King's house. Like, I'm drafting that without King's consent. I don't confer to King at all. Without King's consent, I draft into my constitution that my children will be governed by the laws of my house while they're in King's house. I'm just bringing this down, trying to make it clear that no country can have in their constitution extraterritoriality, because that is established by treaty, and that has to be agreed upon. King has to authorize me. King has to agree. So King has to agree that while my children are in his house, they will be governed by my laws that govern my house. King has to agree to that. So that's why that was no constitution. No constitution has extraterritoriality clause. No judicial power of any constitution in the world extends extraterritoriality. That is established by treaty. And I'm providing clarity with this, King, because a lot of misconceptions have been going out there. There's a lot of misconceptions, so we have to provide clarity. And so we're taking it slow, and I'm giving clear examples. All right. You're doing a great job, brother.
Okay, thank you, brother. So just as he broke it down, and when we talking, see, you got to understand the relationship is nation to nation. When you dealing with constitutions, that's dealing with personal jurisdiction. Extraterritoriality, right, or what they call long-arm jurisdiction, must be conferred by treaty and treaty only. Because you talking about giving up personal jurisdiction within the Constitution and subjugating someone of their knowledge of their laws. You're saying, well, nah, we're not going to allow you to exercise your power of your law here. Right? Stripping them of a right to be able to use their laws, right, according to their own national standards. That's why nationality is so important, because it ties you back to treaties, right? And these treaties is going to decide how you should be governed in accordance to your law. So you will never find extraterritoriality in those jurisdictions unless the country waive its right, and give up personal jurisdiction to that of a government. Yeah. It must be explicit and identified in the treaties. So when we start talking about treaties and we're challenging them on core rentals and doing all of that within the venue, that's for their venue. We're not part and parcel to said government. We're not participating in the jurisdiction. And we must waive jurisdiction, right? We must wait to be heard within the boundaries of the court. This is why objecting to the court is so important, because they're using administrative law to determine if a foreign jurisdiction, and they're trying to use commerce as the way to establish that. But there still got to be extraterritoriality, still got to be conferred by treaty. It still got to be conferred by treaty.
All right. One has to understand the contract in order to determine what is applicable between the two nations.
So when we're dealing with the application, right? I want us to understand. Let's go back to the application. When you say the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, that is the contract that we're looking at. Under that application, what is the clause that we're saying that's in violation, that's a conflict between the two nations, dealing with the treaty powers of the two signatories? We got to understand the two signatories, all right? We must understand the rights conferred under the contract of the treaties. So when we're looking at these treaties, I want us to understand we're dealing with contracts. And contracts is explicit and is dealing with particular elements and particular rights according to the contract. And it has to be identified in the contract. And we must understand how to apply these applications.
All right. Continuing. Operation of law conferred by treaty 1, venue that can be heard, that can hear treaty violations. 2, unforeseen issue that were not put in the treaties.
So, like I said before, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. When we're talking about treaties, right? Because nations deal in treaties. Okay? Nations deal in treaties. They don't deal in constitutions. We got to understand the operation of law and how it works. So if you have your own nation, you have your own constitution. You wouldn't deal with another nation's constitution. That constitution is exclusive to them. It's called exclusive jurisdiction. It's exclusively for that nation. We will have our own constitution exclusively for us. So when we're dealing with these contracts between nations, we got to understand what was expressed about the venue. 9 times out of 10, the two signatory powers, who is giving the grant or setting up the trust, right, as the grantor in relationship to especially land mass, they're going to set it up where 9 times out of 10, where their laws or their venue is going to supersede the other nation's venue based on particular aspects of the contract. And we must understand what those particular aspects are when we're looking at the contract. We must understand what's going on, what rights are conferred. Because you're dealing with landlord and tenant more than likely. Someone is a colonizer, colonizing your land, and you granted them the right to be here, to enjoy, their freedoms. So your venue, more likely, the Moors wrote in those treaties where we had the venue to be heard on such consular matter for its rights. So when we look at these treaties, I want y'all to understand the politics in this, because we're talking about money. We're talking about, everybody's wondering where the money. We must talk about these things because this gives us back our economic advantage. This gives us the right to our economics. This will allow us to have tax reforms and other reforms for us in the social reform that we need to do while establishing, right, this political body that we're calling government.
All right, so we have the upcoming conference, the Moorish Governance, Birthright, and National Claim Conference in Philadelphia, 800 West Alany Avenue. That's May 18th. Be in the house. I would also be broadcast live for your viewing. We're looking for y'all to come to Philadelphia on May 18th. We have another flyer that'll be coming out within the next week or two that will have the pictures of the keynote speakers and panelists. So I'm definitely excited about that upcoming flyer. Brother Hank, if you put that flyer up that has the red background that you put up about 15 minutes ago. Yes, there we go. So we have here the Moorish Governance, Birthright, and National Claim Conference, May 18th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A political mechanism of restoring the domestic and international politics to protect and secure the common good of our people, both conscious and unconscious Moors, and to serve as the caretaker and voice for them among the family nations. So not just for addressing the issues of, not just only addressing the issues of conscious Moors, but for also addressing issues for unconscious Moors. and to serve as a caretaker and voice for them among the family and nations. So this conference, and so we have here the flyer coming. We have it coming once again May 18th at the location Majestic Hall, 800 West Alney Avenue, Philadelphia, 19120. Time 10:30 a.m. to midnight. We have the cost $125, includes lunch and dinner and Moorish ball. So we have the Eventbrite, which is on the pinned on the Abdullah Base Facebook page. All right, so definitely looking forward to this upcoming Moorish Governance, Birthright, and Nationality Claim Conference. Definitely, I really King is doing a wonderful job and explaining, these principles. Can you address the earlier, and I want you to go more into the national security. The first basis for national security for a nation is economics. We must learn how to do business on an international scale. You talked about this last week, and you hammered it home about the economics, and you put the focus on the issue of taxes last week, whereby the colonial powers, owe us taxes for doing business on our land. The Spain and France and the Great Britain / England, and the trustee of them all is the United States, maintaining European conquest and colonization of our land. United States has been hidden behind this veil of false history of this, colonization is over. Back in colonial times, colonization is over. So the word colonization is never associated with United States. It's associated with England, the Dutch, the Netherlands, France and Spain and Portugal. Yeah, remember during colonization, remember during the 16 and 1700s, man, see, back in the colonial times, remember back in colonial times, man, colonial times is over, man. Man, Abdullah, you don't know what you're talking about, because colonial times is back in those days. See that? See the false narrative out there? So United States is hiding behind this veil of the false narrative. Go ahead, King.
Okay, so what we got to understand about coming into this is all about national security. And we must understand forming this government will give us back not just our political legitimacy, but national security, which will give us our economic security. See, I think a lot of us are overlooking the treaties and not really understanding we're talking about monies. And if you think that the United States is not trying to make sure that they don't want to give us that money for those taxes and the money that they stole, they don't want to put that on the table. So we must remind them of that. So when we understand, when we come together under this political banner, we're talking about national security, and the first ground level of national security is economic security. Why is it so important that we come together? Because that economic security is the building block for all the other forms of national security. When we get into national defense, then when we get into national cyber security, when we get into food and water security, when we get into environmental security. This will give us our tranquility to secure our rights under such contracts through treaty. As the first building block of national security will be the economic security that we secure first, so that we can build all of those other things. Securing and putting us back into political legitimacy on a global scale so we can do business everywhere.
All right, great points, and these are some of the points that you raised last week, and you definitely are showing the continuation of thought here. Go more into the operation of law conferred by treaty, King.
Okay, operation of law conferred by treaty. Okay, when we talk about the operation of law under treaty, what do that mean? And what do that look like? First, we got to understand and identify what does it mean, and then what do it look like? Okay, the treaty is going to give you it's going to give you instructions. It's going to tell you what is the thing that you identify, if it's water, if it's talking about land rights, whatever the rights may be, it's going to be all the elements identified within the treaty. And then it's going to determine, based on the landlord-tenant rights, the rights conferred by both. You're going to be able to look at the contract to determine the instructions, to determine how things should go forward if there's a conflict, or it's the operation on how do this treaty supposed to operate, and if everybody is in compliance with the operation of law conferred in the contract, because it's giving you instructions. And then it may, like you said, extend to council of jurisdiction. All of those things are going to be identified within the treaty and the operation of law, right? So now we got to look at, okay, once that's set in stone, what are we doing? I gotta go. It's an incident just happened. I gotta go.
All right, King. Thank you again for joining. King, we'll see you next week. All right, so we have this is a this was a wonderful presentation, and looking forward to next week, continuing with these concepts. We have once again the upcoming May conference on May 18th, the Moorish Governance Nationality Birthright Claim Conference, Philadelphia, 800 West Island Avenue, at Majestic Hall, $125. So please join us, and it will be broadcast for those who are not able to make it. So I'm definitely looking forward. We have viewers who've been working hard behind the scene and putting forth and preparing for this conference. You see here, as I mentioned earlier, nationality is a human rights subject. Article 15, Section 1 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has a right to a nationality. The Principle 3 of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child, it reads here that every child at birth shall have right to a name and nationality. UNESCO proclaimed 1979 as the International Year of the Child, and UNESCO also proclaimed 1989 as the International Year of the Youth. So you have the International Year of the Child, 1979. You have the International Year of the Youth, 1989. 10 years later. I have chapter 11 of my Moors and Masonry Part 2. Is teaching my experience of teaching nationality to 5,000 students in the Kansas City Public School. That's Moors and Masonry Part 2. To get Moors and Masonry Part 2, as well as Moors and Masonry Part 1, Masonic Complex Square and the connection and measurement and timekeeping, how are Venus and Moon rule, etymology vocabulary supplement you 1, go to moorsandmasonry.org. Also, the Moroccan Post School of Government and International Law. We have free classes on the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. We have the Moorish Treaty Protection and Constellations course, which provides about 16 classes. The Moorish Body Politic Formation and Constitutional Government Principle course is 12 classes and a host of others. Go to the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. Though they are free, we also have paid classes on another venue. So I want to give a shout out to Brother Hank, the Magnet Crystal Pyramid. So once again, to view last week's presentation, it is on this platform, Magnet Crystal Pyramid. Let people know about it, share, and also the other videos that are available on the Magnet Crystal Pyramid YouTube page. Brother Hank, I want to thank you again for offering me this platform, Moorish Monday on your platform. Greatly appreciate it. For we can be able to expand the knowledge of Moorish nationality, Moorish birthright, recovery of lost Moorish sovereignty, Moorish treaty protection, bringing our people back home mentally. We're home already on the land, but we're not home here. We're not home here, and then we must become home in national political unity. All right, but once again, bring that flyer back up that has the red background, Hank. Here we go. We have here once again the Moorish Governance Birthright Nationality Claim Conference, May 18th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A political mechanism of restoring the domestic and international politics to protect and secure the common good of our people, both conscious and unconscious Moors, and to serve as the caretaker and voice for them among the family nations. Once again, a political, this upcoming Moorish Governance Birthright and Nationality Claim Conference, scheduled for May 18th, is a political mechanism of restoring the domestic and international politics to protect and secure the common good of our people, both conscious and unconscious Moors, and to serve as a caretaker and voice for them among the family nations. I said earlier, nationality is a human rights subject matter. What did Il Malik, you know him as Malcolm X? Malcolm X, Il Malik, El Haj Malik Shabazz. He said, no, the issue is not civil rights, it's human rights. What did he understand? He understood that the legal term, civil rights, will only replace our issues in the United States jurisdiction. So when using the term human rights, takes it what? Places the issue of our people on the international platform. That is what he understood. He understood that. He didn't live long enough. He's not known for that because he didn't live long enough. So people mention it, yes, and his daughter, his oldest daughter, she mentioned it, but it's not something they really have pushed and made a central part, because that was what his mind. And then in doing that, he also helped establish the African Union. So he was on the right track. So nationality is a human rights subject. Article 1, Article 15, once again, Article 15, Section 1 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has a right to a name and nationality. United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child, Principle 3. Every child birth should have a right to a name and nationality. So it's an international subject. subject matter. So we as a national, as we form and facilitate this Moorish national governing body and on the road to recover our lost Moorish sovereignty, on the road to bring our mother out of her 200-year period of a coma. Coma means a prolonged state of unconsciousness, but now let's translate that. Let's use international law language. That is in international law, that is called a temporary collapse, extinction, or dismemberment or disintegration of a state. And so that's known as the loss of sovereignty. The reverse of that, you have in international law, you have the law of peace and the law of war. Under the law of war, you have the loss of sovereignty, you have conquest, subjugation, colonization, you have the extinction or dismemberment of a state. That falls on the laws of war. On the laws of peace, you have recovery of lost sovereignty, reversion to sovereignty. So we must use international law language to address the issues of our people. As we said before, nationality is a human rights international law subject. So once again, looking forward to seeing y'all next week. All right. Once again, go to moorsandmasonry.org for my books and the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. Thank you again. Thank you again, Brother Hank. I greatly appreciate you. We have won't we fill any questions now. So next.
Say often, yes, I am. Supreme shield of protection surrounding me. Yes, I am. Yes, I am remembering all I was born to do. Yes, I am. Take hold of your crystal, which will magnify your I am affirmations at least 600%.